Greetings, and welcome to Skylanders Portalcasters, the podcast where we discuss anything and everything Skylanders. I'm your host, Inklander, and I'm joined today by my co-host, GFDitto. And in today's episode, we are going to be discussing the best and worst NPCs in Skylanders. So, Ditto, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well today. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. And in this episode, we're pretty much going to be starting kind of another four-part, loosely anyway, kind of series where we're going to be diving a little bit more into the NPCs, specifically Flynn and Kaos in the upcoming episodes. But in this episode, we're going to be talking generally about just everything that we like and don't like about some of the NPCs, including Flynn and Kaos, but we're going to be really kind of focusing on all the other characters apart from them. So let's start off with some of our favorite NPCs and go from there.
So for some of my favorite NPCs, I'm going to start with the obvious. Flynn, Kaos, and Glum Shanks are all, at the top of my list for absolute favorites. All three of them are just so amazing.
Flynn is really fun, and as I said, we're going to be talking about him pretty in depth in the next episode, where we're going to be talking about the best Flynn moments. But specifically when it comes to Flynn's personality, he's fun. He's this guy who has a pretty big ego, and he thinks he's the best pilot in all of Skylands, so it makes him a really interesting, flawed, basically protagonist. Like, he is the person, except for in the 6th game, that pretty much we follow throughout the cutscenes and through a decent amount of the levels, and he's just this kind of funny guy. Like, he's really comedic. He's a good comic relief character. He has this idea that he is the best when oftentimes he has things that go wrong, and sometimes even to the point where it will cause havoc for the Skylanders. He has this really fun dynamic, especially when it comes to some of the other characters that he interacts with, where a lot of them react to him in different ways, and it's fun to see how his, style comes off in some of the games, and it's really fun. I really like how he's a foodie and how he always is going on about food, like enchiladas and things like that. So overall, I really like him. I think his dynamic with the other characters are fun. His ego really kind of drives this flawed version of the character that makes him really fun and really exciting to watch in the cutscenes. So overall, I really like Flynn.
And I think it's also noteworthy to point out that the 3DS version of Skylanders SWAT Force actually states that before the Skylanders came along, Flynn was kind of the hero who was standing up to Kaos.
Yeah, that's true. So, he really is this guy who, really is kind of doing it more so for the attention than anything. But, he's doing the right things all the time, but typically for the wrong reasons, which just makes him a fascinating protagonist.
He really is just fascinating. He really is.
Yeah, he's just fun. He's lovable because he's just so silly oftentimes, and sometimes when he's not even trying to be silly. A lot of the time he's not trying to be silly, but he does come off that way, which makes him a really fun character.
I think that's also really emphasized when you realize that he was kind of the protagonist to Kaos's antagonist, because the two of them, they're similar in that sense. That's kind of what makes Kaos so memorable, is the fact that he's just silly and flawed and fascinating. Like, you really get into what he's trying to do, and he's trying to do, all the wrong things for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I know. He actually does kind of parallel Flynn that way. In that, they both kind of want the attention and they want the power, but Flynn goes about it by hanging out with the Skylanders and kind of, bragging about his, adventures with the Skylanders, and as piloting the Dread Yacht as the quote-unquote best pilot in the Skylands. He has, that's kind of his role. Meanwhile, with Kaos, he also wants the attention and he wants the power, but he's willing to do all these really bad things to get that. And he's willing to fight against the Skylanders and try to manipulate people and in order to be able to achieve that goal. So they do have a really interesting kind of parallel there. Even though we don't really ever see Flynn and Kaos interact that much, it's usually towards the end of the games where it's, where Kaos is curses, I've been foiled again, and Flynn's that's okay, Kaos buddy.
And then Flynn says, boom.
We see them interact there, but that's pretty much it. They usually don't interact that much, but they are really similar. That is true.
They really are, and that's I think part of what makes Chaos so lovable is the fact that he does have all those parallels with Flynn, and they have similar personality types.
Yeah, that is true. And on the topic of Chaos, let's go ahead and dive into why he's just so much fun. As we've said, he's really a great kind of parallel for Flynn, but he's also kind of just memorable because with Chaos, we almost are able to, I guess, see a different side of him in some of the games, which that is actually something we're going to be talking about over the course of 2 episodes. But where we're going to be talking about the best foils for Chaos and also the best Chaos moments. But the thing is, with Flynn, he pretty much is exactly who he is at face value. But with Chaos, we actually see him change and interact with different people depending on if he's interacting with his mother, or if he's interacting with the Golden Queen and the Doom Raiders, or if he's interacting with Glum Shanks, if he's interacting with the Darkness. Like, we actually see that he's really just kind of this guy that wants to be loved, and he feels neglected because of the relationship with his mother, because she is overbearing, and like, we see all these different ways that he interacts with all these characters, and we actually, over the course of the games, figure out why he is the way he is. Like, he really is trying to get power, mostly because he feels like that's a suitable replacement for not getting the respect that he wants. And it's really kind of an interesting dynamic for Chaos.
It really is. He is a fascinating character just to watch, and he's fascinating to the extent that Skylanders just isn't Skylanders without Chaos. If you remove Chaos from the equation, the game is vastly different.
That is very true. Yeah, he is really kind of the heart and soul of the game other than Flynn, and he is just really, really a fun character to watch because he does have all these different interactions and dynamics. And like, I really do appreciate the plotline they give him in Superchargers, where it really showcases that all he really wants is to be loved just like a little bit by anyone, and yet he is almost pushed to the extent of destroying the entire Skylands in order to be able to just get a little bit of recognition. And that interaction that he has with the Darkness is great, and I can't wait to discuss that in depth in a future episode. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And then, speaking of love for Chaos, there is his very lovable sidekick / servant, Glum Shanks.
Oh yeah, Glum Shanks is wonderful no matter what form he comes in, whether we're talking about the TV show or the games.
Except evilized Glum Shanks.
Except evilized Glum Shanks, he's a pain. That boss fight generally is a pain, especially if you're trying to do the 3 stars of don't get hit.
Right.
But, Glum Shanks himself, he's fun. I really like the dynamic that Chris Cox brings to him in the games, because he is voiced by different people in the video game and in the TV show. But I really like the way that Glum Shanks is portrayed in the games, because he's kind of just this really lovable guy who is just trying to help out Chaos and is trying to help him move on with like with his life, and like, he's trying to look after him, he's trying to do what's best for him, but he often just like really struggles with it, and and it's fun to see like how he deals with all that. But you also really feel for Glum Shanks because he just has to deal with all of Chaos's stuff. Like, he just has to put up with so much from Chaos, and it's like, you wonder why he doesn't like just leave and quit, but also at the same time, it's like, well, he is trying to help Chaos change. It's just very unsuccessful.
Yeah, and watching him try and fail is just amusing. I love it.
Yeah. And meanwhile, in the TV show, the thing that I really like about what Norm Macdonald brings to Glum Shanks is that he gives him this really dry wit, which is kind of sort of present with Glum Shanks in the video games, but it's way more emphasized in the TV show than it is in the video games. But yet again, I think that works with the dynamic with Chaos perfectly, just because yet again, like, he's just like, well, I'm trying to help you, but like, I'm having to like put up with this. Like, it's just very passive aggressive. He has a lot of fun comments where it's like, yes, indeed, sir, of course. It's just, that brings even more to that dynamic, and I think it makes both of these different kind of variations of Glum Shanks a lot of fun.
I think it's deserving of a special mention in regards to imaginary Glum Shanks.
Oh yes, I love that. That there's this one scene in Superchargers where like Glum Shanks has been fired by Chaos, and like he has this whole scene that like plays out in his head where like Glum Shanks is trying to be like, you can do it, and it's like you're really having these issues. Like Glum Shanks, he literally imagines Glum Shanks to help him with his problems. Like I like that. It's like when Glum Shanks isn't there, like Chaos still needs Glum Shanks. But you know, Glum Shanks is like, really what your issue is like you need to destroy Skylands, but you're destroying your own destiny in the process, and like that's what you're grappling with. Like it's just this really funny scene, and you know, like Glumshanks tries to disappear at the end, and it just like doesn't work. He's like, you know, he like throws down a puff of smoke, but he just like walks away. And then meanwhile, at the end, when Chaos does see Glumshanks again, like towards the boss fight, and like it's actually Glumshanks, like Chaos just like he just dismisses him, and he's like, that, like whatever, imaginary Glumshanks. It's just hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious because he's just like, you're just in my head. Stop talking. It's really funny.
It's great. Interactions like these really showcase how dynamic the relationships are in this series.
Yeah, it really does. Now, speaking of relationships, of course, the other really big relationship among our main protagonists is the relationship of Cali with Flynn and Tessa with Flynn. And you and I have very divergent opinions on this because these are two very popular characters as well. I think a lot of people love Cali and Tessa. They're definitely some of the best and most memorable characters in the game. But the thing is I think Cali is the best leading female protagonist, but you think it's Tessa.
Yes. Now, granted, I will say I love both of the characters. They're both just great. But for me, I feel that Tessa is the better female lead because just the way she and Flynn play off of each other, it starts with one thing and then they just play off each other into like this finale of funny. Whereas Cali kind of is she's one who tends to I would say try to keep Flynn in check. Yeah. That's exactly how I would phrase that, actually.
Yeah, like that's why I like Cali more, is because Cali is very much she will not put up with Flynn character. She's like she's like the, oh no, I'm trying to think of a geek reference to compare it to, like, you know, Kira Nerys from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Like, that's the feel that I get from Cali's character. She is this, I'm not going to take anything from anyone. I'm going to do this my way. And, like, whenever, like, Flynn flirts with her, like, there's this part in Superchargers where, like, you know, Flynn's like, well, now, Cali, it's time for you to profess your undying love for me. And she's like, I'm good. Like, I really like the fact that Cali is just not going to put up with Flynn. And that's one of the reasons why I like her, because I think that makes her actually a really strong female character, because she is like, I don't need this man.
I do agree with that, but I tend to just prefer the dynamic of playing off of each other and let the antics ensue.
Right. Now, that's the other thing, is, like, Tessa and Flynn have much more of a Gilmore Girls kind of banter to them. Like, they are very much just going to be playing off of each other, because they're both very quirky characters.
Yes.
Like, Tessa kind of starts out at the beginning of Swap Force as, like, a fangirl.
That's an apt description.
Yeah, she's just like, oh my gosh, it's the Skylanders, and it's the best pilot in all of Skylands. But then once she realizes that, like, Flynn is Flynn, she then, like...
Once she realizes her mistake.
Yeah, but then once she realizes that, then they start having all those kind of bantery moments that we see, like, in the beginning cutscene of Iron Jaw Gulch, and just things like that, where, you know, we just see them actually play off of each other and have that banter. And that is fun, and that's one of the reasons why I like Tessa. But the thing is I just feel like Tessa is so glued to the side of Flynn that, like, whenever we see Tessa in Supercharger, she's never not with Flynn. And that's something that I kind of don't like about her character, is that, like, once she got that dynamic of being with Flynn in Swap Force, we never really are able to see her apart from Flynn after that. So she's kind of like part of a duo with Flynn. Meanwhile, with Cali will go off on an adventure with Mags to, like, Rainfish Riviera, and we don't need to have Flynn there at all. So that's one of the reasons why I like Cali, is because I feel like her, like, very headstrong personality comes through really well, and she's able to stand on her own as her own character. Meanwhile, Tessa, I think, once we get later into the games, has trouble doing that. Like, it's very hard to disconnect her from Flynn.
That is a fair point.
So that's why I like Cali more, but of course we want to know what you all think. So if you're listening on YouTube, let us know in the comments, who do you like more? Is it Cali or Tessa, and why? But, you know, it's definitely a debate. I like both of the characters a lot, but really I think when it comes to just like strong female characters, like empowerment, I like Cali more.
And I just prefer the witty antics of Tessa.
Exactly. So it's really just kind of up to you kind of thing. They're both great.
Yep.
They're both really fun. And I mean, technically, if you want to go for empowerment too, Tessa is the chiefess of Woodborough, even though that never really gets mentioned ever again after Swap Force.
She just kind of forgets about them.
Yeah, she just kind of forgets. Like, she just leaves her village often and just, you know, she's just like, whatever, I'm gonna go hang out with the Skylanders today. It's just... Yeah, so, like, they offhand mention it, and it's just like, I figured I should come help, so I came from Woodborough, and they never mention it again. So, I don't know, that's a bit of a give and take. So, hey, she is the leader of a village. She's just never shown leading the village. Now, there are also other really fun non-playable characters, and I think one of those for me is Mags.
I have her kind of in my do not like list.
Ooh, okay. All right, well then I'll go ahead and detail what I like about Mags, and then later on you can detail what you don't like.
Sure.
Like, I just really like her inventor kind of spirit. I think it's kind of fun. Like, she helps you with your vehicles a little bit when it comes to, like, getting the 10 jillion Thunderbolts kind of added into it. And, like, I don't know, she's just kind of fun. She's kind of quirky. She's just really silly. And, you know, she's just kind of has this almost Doc Brown personality to her. And I just kind of like that. Like, she's not as zany as like Doc Brown is. Like, she's not as, I guess, all over the place, but she's still kind of a lot of fun, and it's just fun to see her interact with characters. Granted, she does kind of appear literally out of the middle of nowhere. She just like pops into existence in Trap Team, but, you know, still, I think once she's there, I think she quickly becomes a mainstay. And so for me is why I kind of like Mags. It's just, she's this really fun kind of science-minded kind of character, and I really like that. And it's also fun to like see her play Luminous in that one level, Sunscraper Spire. Like, it's kind of fun to have like the actress that plays Mags like also try to play Luminous throughout almost the entire level. So like, she is like the one that plays Luminous the most. And so, I don't know, I think it's cool that they gave her that. But of course, you know, once we get to our dislikes, Ditto will be able to kind of give a opposite opinion to that. So, Ditto, I guess, who's one of your favorite characters?
For other major supporting characters, I happen to really enjoy Buzz, who also kind of came out of nowhere.
Buzz to me, I don't really have him on my like or dislike. I don't know, accept his presence. Buzz, I don't really like or dislike. I just, like, I think he's fine, but I don't really have much of an opinion on him. I just kind of, you know, he's there, and he is good for, like, the Skylanders training and everything, like the Secret Ninja Commando stuff.
The Secret Ninja Commando training, yes.
That, for me, I don't really have a preference on it. It's just, like, it's just kind of there. Like, I don't really get excited when Buzz is leading me through a level or anything. I just kind of think he's an okay character.
For me, Buzz is the first Skylanders NPC I ever met, because he's the first NPC you meet in Trap Team, and that was my introduction to the series.
That's true.
So I kind of got off on the right foot with Buzz. He was kind of my guide through my introduction to Skylanders. And he's quirky. He has good interactions with the other characters. Like, he makes you chuckle a little bit. And Secret Ninja Commando training. I mean, he's got one eye and a peg leg, but he's got Secret Ninja Commando skills, so...
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, he's... Like, I really do like his character design, and I think the whole personality they give him and what they're trying to go for, they really hit the nail on the head with that. Just for me personally, he's not, like, my kind of character, but he's also not, like, a character I don't like either.
And I think it all comes down to that personality type, because that's what I really enjoy the most about him, is his personality. Like, he does have that quirkiness. He has those interactions with other characters that kind of make you chuckle a little bit, but not too much. He's no Flynn and Tessa.
That's true. Neither is Mags. Mags is not Flynn and Tessa and Cali level either.
I think mostly my opinion on this is based on the fact that he was the first NPC I ever met. I met him first, and he didn't get on my nerves.
Gotcha.
His presence in Soda Springs was generally enjoyable, especially once he mentions bottom feeding suction eel flavored.
Yes.
Once he mentions that soda, like that was the moment where I realized I like this Mabu.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, so I can understand that. And Buzz is a pretty major character, just like Mags. Once he gets introduced and pops into existence, he stays for the rest of the franchise. He's not necessarily my kind of character, but I do know that a lot of people really do appreciate him. Now, I think one character that we can't not mention is one character that we might not always perceive as being constantly there, but he is always there because he often speaks throughout every level, saying things like, Skylanders of the water element are stronger in this zone. We have to kind of talk about Master Eon as an NPC as well, because he is one of the most memorable protagonists as well.
Absolutely. And Master Eon, I would definitely say, is one of my favorite NPCs, even though he's not one that I usually typically think of as an NPC.
Right.
But he is, and he is ever present throughout our entire adventure.
Yeah.
Except the beginning of Superchargers, when Hugo kind of had to take over for him for a little bit there.
Oh yeah, and we'll get to Hugo.
Yeah, we will.
That's the thing, is Master Eon, he's always there. Like, even though, like, oftentimes when you're just playing through a level, you might not even hear him say sometimes, like, Skylanders of whatever element are stronger here. Like, you might just, like, glance over that with your ears sometimes. But yeah, that's the thing, is, like, he is kind of always there, and he does always interact with us in some way, shape, or form. He's, like, while he is, for the most part, limited to being, like, someone you talk to access a certain mode or a certain menu, and just, like, intros and outros the game, usually, like, he is always there with those voice lines, being like, oh, you can do this, use this button to attack at the beginning of the games. Like, he is kind of always there as, like, your guide. He's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of Skylanders, and I think the voice actor they picked for this does a really good job with it, Daniel Hagen, and like they really just give you this, like, Force Ghost kind of vibe with them in a way, and I think it really works. Like, he's honestly a lot of fun. He's a really cool character, and he adds to the Portal Master lore as well. And like, you really do feel for him in Superchargers when he gets kidnapped and Hugo is having to take over and we're having to rescue Master Eon. It's such a really fun twist because you're so used to him being there, like, that once he isn't there, you realize that there's something pretty wrong.
And the vast majority of Master Eon's interactions in the game are with you, the Portal Master. No other character interacts with you as much. Granted, most of them do, but not nearly to the extent that Master Eon does. So Master Eon is essentially what feels like the Portal Master's direct link to Skylands.
Yeah. And that's true. Like, he is the character that we are technically the most connected with. Because you do hear characters typically talking about the Portal Master, and we do have Kaos talking directly to us sometimes. But the thing is like, usually they're mentioning Portal Masters, like, offhand. They're talking about, like, we're going to be taking the Portal Master to this level or something. But, like, with Master Eon, he is typically, like, for the most part, looking directly at the camera and talking to us. And that's very different from how the other NPCs kind of interact with the phrasing of Portal Master and interact with that lore behind it. So it is kind of, like, usually whenever they're going to a new place or something, it is typically like, Skylander, are you ready to head here? It's kind of cool that Master Eon is kind of there to be that bridge between the game and Portal Master, and I think it's really fun. And I think the way that they go about it with the game and with the characterization works really well.
And I think that the lack of that interaction in the TV series was actually very detrimental to it. I feel like it was disappointing that they never once mentioned Portal Masters outside of the obvious ones there, being Kaos and Master Eon.
Yeah.
So it was almost as if the whole Portal Master and Portal thing in general was retconned for the TV series, and I kind of was really disappointed by that.
Yeah, it would have been cool, because they typically, whenever they're going places, they either just cut away and they're suddenly there, or like we see them using the supercharger vehicles. It's really rare to actually, I think we really only see it like maybe 2 or 3 times where they actually like use a portal. Like it might be less than that. It might be like once. But it's like it's not really referenced like at all. Like they almost never teleport anywhere. At least we don't see it on screen. And so it is definitely kind of weird that we do have these like leaders, I guess. Like we have Chaos and we have, Master Eon, who are like in charge, but then it's like, why is Master Eon in charge? Don't you think that should be like an Elder Skylander or something? Like taking away that Portal Master element and why Master Eon is special when it comes to Portal Mastery, like it does kind of make it seem like weird because they had to give him new characterization pretty much, because once you take away him being the link to the player, it's like, all right, well now we actually have to give Master Eon a little bit more of a different personality, so they went a little bit goofier with it and gave him his kung fu beard, which is not bad. I really like that. It's fun, but it is definitely a little bit of a different angle to the character.
It is.
Speaking of Portal Masters, another one that I would say is actually one of my favorites is Chaosandra, also known as Chaos's mom, and we're going to be talking about her more in the Chaos foil episode that we have coming up in a couple episodes, but I do just want to kind of say that I really like her character. I think she's fun. She's just exactly kind of what you would expect. Like, she's this mother who is like kind of overbearing and very disappointed in her son in a lot of ways, in both the TV show and also in the game. And like she's basically just like, whatever, I'll do it myself in the video games. And meanwhile in the TV show, spoilers I guess if you haven't seen it, but it's because she's working with Master Eon and is actually a force for good. But like like she's trying to like deter Chaos in the show, but she's still like, okay, Chaos, like she still is like overbearing, but it's for a different reason in the show. And she's like disappointed for him for causing trouble in the show, but in the video games she's disappointed in him for not causing enough trouble, and she's overbearing because of that. So it's really an interesting kind of dynamic there, and either way I think she is a really cool character when it comes to interacting with Chaos. And just generally, it was really cool to have another evil portal master in there for a game, and kind of adding in that whole like dynamic with the portal trick where you have to like lift your Skylander off the portal to be able to find her. That's cool. So I do like that.
I'm actually fairly neutral to Chaosandra's character. There were some things I liked, some things I didn't. I liked that in Giants, Glum Shanks advised Chaos never to try to use the portal for himself. And yet that's exactly what she does in what would have been a boss fight against her in Swap Force.
Yeah, that's true.
And I did like that. And I enjoy some of the interactions she has with Chaos, more so in the TV series than in the game. But I do enjoy their interactions in-game as well. I just feel like her character didn't really get enough screen time during the games for me to have really, truly had a chance to either like or dislike her. She's kind of just stuck in the middle there.
Yeah, I think it would have honestly been a better plot for Imaginators to not even deal with the Ancients at all or anything, and just like have like Chaos's mom break through the mirror.
That would have been cool.
But still, like I do agree. Like when it comes to the games, she could have had more character development. But the TV show version of her, I do really like. I think she gets a pretty good, solid character arc. Especially in season 3, we actually see her go from being like an outcast to like getting accepted by the Skylanders. So that's a cool plot.
Yeah.
Now, meanwhile, we said we'd get back to him, so we might as well go ahead and talk about Hugo. Hugo, I think, is another really fun, lovable NPC.
He really is. He really is. I kind of have him more on the neutral list as well, but leaning towards the lovable side.
I like him. Like, I think he's cool. Like, I really like the dynamic that he has with Cali. Like, Cali kind of takes on this, like, motherly role to him in Superchargers. And I just really like it, how he's, like, very scared and very nervous about Master Eon being gone. And yet he kind of has to, like, step up and take charge. And, like, Cali's there to, like, comfort him and tell him that everything's going to be okay. And then he kind of pretty much takes on the role of Master Eon for, like, the first third of the game. Where he's kind of having to help direct missions, and he's having to do the sayings about the vehicles and everything, about the elemental zones, and it's I really do appreciate that. He kind of has a lot of character development, honestly, in Superchargers, where he goes from kind of being like this I guess awkward and shy character to actually being able to like stand up and, you know, be able to take on a role of his own. It's kind of really cool.
See, and that's why he's more on the neutral list for me, is because you literally just summed up 2/3 of his personality with 2 words: scared and nervous.
That's true.
Add in fears sheep, and you've got Hugo.
That's true. That is true.
Hugo was just such a shallow personality for a character that I really didn't get a chance for him to grow on me, because you really only get that at the end of Superchargers, and then Imaginators just shoved him off into the academy. He never really had the time to grow on me either. At least in the show, they kind of built him a little better, because he could be described as scholarly.
Meanwhile, we don't really get to see that too much in the video games.
Exactly, and that's kind of where I'm basing the majority of my list off of, is the games.
And he also got sidelined a lot, because like he gets a cameo in Giants at the beginning when they're leaving the Core Light, and then he gets a cameo in Swap Force when Flynn's talking with him and Cali before crashing into Mount Cloudbreak. And then, like, we see him right at the beginning in the first cutscene of Trap Team, and then he's never seen again. And we really only ever see him again fully as, like, a fully fledged character after Spyro's Adventure in Superchargers. And then after that, in Imaginators, he's just there to, like, collect books that have been lost from the library.
He really didn't get a chance to shine as a character, and I don't think that necessarily makes him an unlikable character, but it definitely isn't doing him any favors.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see the direction you're going with. Now, when it comes to being scared of things, there is another character that I do like, specifically because of that trait, and only really because of that trait, because that's really the only character trait they have. And I really like Ermit from Skylanders Giants. Because he's just like so scared of clouds that I think it's really funny. He's this whole like conspiracy theory about like the clouds are watching him, and everything has to do with the clouds, and that's literally Ermit the Hermit.
I kind of lump him together with Hugo in the neutral category because of that.
No, and I can totally agree with that, but for me, oh no, I think just him having that like quirky personality trait, that's what makes me like Ermit. Like, it's really only there to like pretty much give them the information of, oh hey, I saw Kaos got one of those Archean robot things. But like that's pretty much it. That's his whole role in the game, really. Like after that, he was just kind of there on the Dread Yacht. But still, like I think it's funny. Like his comments about clouds, kind of funny.
I just find it to be a shame that we see more personality in Whiskers than we do a lot of these NPCs.
That's true. Now, there is one other NPC that I do have to, like that I do want to talk in depth about. After that, I just have some shout outs. But the other NPC that I really want to talk about that I really like is Blobbers. I don't like the rest of the Mabu Defense Force, which we can get to that. But Blobbers, I really think it's funny because he actually kind of has a lot of the same kind of personality traits as, like, Chaos. Like, he's often kind of forgotten about and kind of kicked to the side, and, like, no one really cares about Blobbers. And oftentimes, like, he's just kind of this character that you feel sorry for because he's trying to help the Skylanders and he's trying to do the right thing.
Blobbers is that character where he's just doing his best, and we love him for it, and he's quirky, and he's fun. And he even had that one moment in the Lost Imaginite Mines where it was like he had his own villain backstory.
Yes.
And Blobbers is just so lovable. You think about the Mabu Defense Force, the rest of them are not. They're either forgettable or bad. Blobbers just kind of stands out as one of the Mabus that is just really memorable and really lovable. Like, I can't remember a negative interaction that I've had with Blobbers.
Yes, I would agree. Like, and as you say, that villain backstory, which we talked about back in the Valentine's episode, but, like, it's really fun. Like, honestly, like, this whole idea that, like, he comes full circle and he wants to use that Imaginite cash to be able to, like, right the wrongs of everything that's, like, happened to him. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's so sad. But also at the same time, like, it's just like, wow, that's, like, actually a really good villain backstory there. Like, honestly, like, if there was another Skylanders game, I wouldn't mind if, like, Blobbers was working for Chaos. Like, you know, like, I wouldn't mind if they actually turned him into a villain, you know, because, like, that could be, like, him wanting to try to do like the right things, like he might be wanting to try to save Skylands, and he might be wanting to try to, get attention and get recognition for it, but he might go about it the wrong way. I think that'd be a really kind of fun plot line to explore with blobbers in the future if they wanted to go that route in the future game. Another character that I think I really like, and again, we'll talk about him more in depth in a future episode, is the Darkness. I really like his personality. He's exactly the fresh new kind of villain that I think Skylanders needed in the console games to give him a really fun playoff of chaos. And he's just Vicarious Visions did a really good job. Something I won't say very often, but Vicarious Visions did a really good job taking literally what was just actual darkness in Spyro's Adventure and giving him a really fully fleshed out personality. They make him evil, and it's really well done, and he has such a really fun personality. I think he gets a little sidelined by making his boss fight a vehicle section at the end, but wow, they really gave him some really good personality really quick in that game, and it was a lot of fun to see him interact with Chaos too.
He reminded me of Uka Uka, but on steroids evil.
Yeah, he's really fun. He's actually a really well written villain, and I like that. Now, as for some other characters, I just want to kind of shout out as oh, I like this character. Drill X, really fun that they had a robot rap. I wish he had come back some way in Trap Team as a trappable villain, but it's fine. Mesmeralda, I'd also like to shout out. She's also a really good villain. I wish she had gotten way more character development, but she's definitely more on the okay leaning to good, because great character design, great boss fight, great personality, great musical number, but she should have gotten more. She should have been a trappable villain in Trap Team too. But as we kind of see with Toys for Bob, one thing that we can say kind of negatively about Toys for Bob is that they often, other than for Tessa and briefly Avril, they never use Vicarious Visions created characters. So that, I wish they had used Mesmeralda, because she really would have had a lot of potential, and Toys for Bob could have expanded on her character more, but they just didn't. So that's kind of disappointing to me.
While I can fault Toys for Bob for not using any of the Vicarious characters, I can also give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt based on the fact that Vicarious forgot about their own NPCs as well.
That's true, and we will be talking about that in a moment, because we haven't gotten to our dislikes yet. So, and also for my final two shoutouts, Noodles, voiced by Alex Ness, who also voices Chompy Mage and every other character ever. He's really fun. He's just this brief villain that was in Giants, but I thought his personality was kind of fun, kind of quirky, almost Kronk-like, I guess, if you're going for Emperor's New Groove kind of thing. I kind of like that. And then Pomfrey, LaFuzzbottom from Superchargers. I really like how they picked Rene Auberjonois, who voiced Odo from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, making a lot of Deep Space Nine references today, but it is what it is, because he did voice Odo. But he just has such a distinct voice that, having him read all the stories, or, narrate the stories from Spellpunk the Library, great idea. He has the voice for that, and they picked an excellent voice actor to do that, because he's known for a lot of voice acting work. He's been in The Little Mermaid, just tons of other animated films, and he's been a theater actor, he's been in television. They picked an excellent voice actor for Pomfrey for what they wanted to do, as having him be a literal bookworm. Really good. So overall, those are all my final really good character shout outs.
Now, I also have a couple of characters to shout out. Quick shout out to Whiskers for one.
Oh yeah,
because Whiskers is Whiskers.
Yes, the squawking feather mattress.
Yes. Then one for Pinchy as well. I really enjoyed him. His accent was very memorable.
Okay.
And one for Snagglescale.
Okay.
I really enjoyed his character. I would have loved to have met Hook-Nose Hammer-Knuckle in the Swap Force arena, but they never followed through on that and made that happen for me. But Snagglescale, I really, really enjoyed. He was almost like the Flynn version of Gilgrunt. He was almost the Flynn version of Gilgrunt with a little bit of hillbilly mixed in, and I just found it kind of amusing. One shout out also for Brain. I happen to really enjoy the Brain.
Some of the characters that you just mentioned are actually on my dislike list, and you also mentioned earlier that Mags is on your dislike list. So I say, let's go ahead and touch on those. So why don't you go ahead and give me all the comments you have on why you don't like Mags?
mostly for a lot of the reasons that you listed. You liked her. She did feel a lot like a Doc Brown character, and I just that character type never really jived with me. And then things like when she's calling the pirates blueberries or the hot buttered toast catchphrase, those just kind of grated on my nerves a little bit.
Interesting. I liked her for that. Like, I liked her, like, little catchphrasing things, personally. The only thing that I probably have against Mags is when she says, drop me anywhere, and you have to drop her in one specific part.
Honestly, I think that's what pushed her over the edge on dislike, is when she says, drop me anywhere, but if you don't drop her in that orange crosshair, you have to pick her up and do it again.
Yeah, so that's not very fun for a crane game.
She flat out lies to you, and I don't like that.
Like, I can understand that. So I think actually when it comes to Mags and Buzz, to me it's sounding like it's just preference.
It is, just like Tessa and Cali.
Yeah, so like, you don't really like Mags, but I do, and then I think Buzz is just kind of okay, but you really like Buzz, so it's just really kind of the personality there and which one you prefer, so I can definitely understand that. Some of the ones that you mentioned that I don't like are actually the Pinchy and Snagglescale. Snagglescale, I think they did a really good job of making annoying, which I think is what they were trying to do, but for me, that's why I don't like the character, is because, like, they did a really good job of making him talk so much, like, but the thing is, like, that's what makes his character grating to me. Like, they take it from the point where it's supposed to be a funny quirk to where they actually make it annoying, and that's why I kind of don't like Snagglescale.
That's fair.
Now, as for the other one, it's Da Pinchy. I don't know, it just kind of felt like he was just a character that was just not necessary for the level. It's not that I necessarily don't like him, but I feel like he kind of leans towards don't like, because it just kind of was an NPC introduced specifically for that level that I just kind of don't really like the personality of. Like, I think he's okay. I don't know, it's just like, I feel like they could have had like one of our usual NPCs leading us through that level a little bit more, like Tessa or something. I don't really think they needed to have Da Pinchy as the leader for that level.
That's fair, and like you said, we didn't exactly get a lot of personality out of him. I think what made him stand out and made me enjoy him a little bit more was the accent.
Yeah, so, like, I don't know, like, the accent is good, like, he's fun, like, he is quirky, but I do think that we should have gotten a little bit more from him if we were going to have him more prevalent. Now we've kind of touched on all the characters that were kind of, like, crossed over between our lists, at least as far as we know. At the moment. Like, I might list off a character, or you might list off a character you don't like that I just think's okay. But going off of that, I guess give me your first, like, dislike. Who's the character that you don't like?
I'm not going to go for the most obvious one first, so I'm going to go with Persephone.
Okay, she's on my dislike list too.
I mean, anybody who knows me knows that I adore fairies. That's just the way it is. But Persephone is altogether different. I can't really place what it is, but I just can't stand her.
For me, it's the voice. For me, it's the voice acting. I think her voice is just really annoying to me.
Her voice, I get that. Then also her personality is entirely, oh, I'm going to take your money.
Yeah, like, and also, I don't know, just, yeah, it's like the way her lines are written doesn't feel very good either. The way that her lines are written kind of feel odd. I don't really know how to describe it. But
Right.
it's just like, it's because she's just like fairy dancing and money and fairy dancing, and it's just like, what is going on? Like, I don't know, it's just, for me, like, I think that combined with the voice, it's just like makes her a really annoying character. That plus, except for every other game except for, well, Swap Force, where she's not even present, thank goodness, and Imaginators, where you can just skip her entirely. Like, you have to go to her to buy every single upgrade individually and listen to her talk to you over and over and over again.
Are you ready for another magical upgrade? That's the only reason I come here.
It's the most annoying thing ever.
The wave of relief that washed over me when I started up Imaginators and realized that I could just do it from the select menu is exactly the evidence that shows that she belongs on the dislike list. I should not have been that relieved to not interact with a character.
Oh yeah, and as we've talked about previously in another episode, in Mirror of Mystery, it's kind of very satisfying to fight Persephone there, to be able to just, like, topple down her treehouse. Because it's just, oh my gosh. And know what, let's go ahead, and while we're talking about it, let's talk about Marcia, since they're voiced by the same voice actress. Like, Oh my gosh, Marcia is so annoying. Because even though she's only that one part in Monster Marsh, she's just one part. She's just there and she never appears again. I really don't like Marcia because she has the same kind of voice, and also because that part takes so freaking long. Yeah, you can do Marcia skip, but that's a little annoying to do. But, like, it's just, her character frustrates me. Not as much as Persephone, because you only have to deal with her that one time, but oh my goodness. It's a problem. Now, it's funny because Laura Bailey, who voices these characters, also voices a character that I really like, being Ninjini. I don't know, like, Ninjini is completely fine, and I know that, Ditto, she's, like, your favorite Skylander.
One of.
But, like, oh my gosh, the voice she does for Persephone and the characterization for Persephone is awful to me.
It is awful.
It's just, I can't stand it. The voice she does for Ninjini, great. Persephone, no.
And Marcia, too, just no.
Yeah, it's bad. Like, I really can't stand it. That being said, though, the other people that kind of deal with upgrades and shop stuff, being Gorm and Talk from Swap Force, I don't particularly like them either.
I don't either, primarily because they're so forgettable.
Yeah.
Truth be told, we had to Google their names.
I know. That's the thing. Like, we Googled that. Like, we did not know because they're that forgettable.
I speedrun Swap Force, and I forget that Tuck runs Tuck's Emporium.
Yeah, like, it's a problem. And that's a problem with a lot of the Vicarious Visions characters anyway. Because, yeah, Toys for Bob can, you can grill on them for neglecting the Vicarious Visions created characters. But also at the same time, it's like, well, Vicarious Visions forgets about them. But also, they're just forgettable characters. They're not good characters.
I wouldn't exactly call them bad characters either. They're just forgettable, which is what makes them bad. Even the most neutral of the neutral are memorable in some way.
Right. Now, yeah, but that's the thing. Gorm and Tuck, like, I can remember, like, both of their character designs, but I couldn't remember their names. It's an interesting thing, because, like, yeah, they didn't need to bring them back. And I think Vicarious Visions did kind of realize that with Superchargers, because I think in Superchargers they bring back, like, who?
They bring back Tessa, Whiskers, and Sharpfan.
Oh, yeah, and Softpaw. I have an opinion on Softpaw. I do not like Softpaw. I always found his character to be annoying. I always thought the stealth level idea was, I guess, cool, but it was just... It was weird to me. I don't really like those levels. Like, when it comes to a final Chaos level in Swap Force, it's an okay idea, but I think the execution of it is awful. And it's just, I think one of the reasons that makes it even more awful for me is Softpaw.
Softpaw wasn't a good character either.
When it comes to, like, secret spy stuff, I prefer Buzz.
Yes, please.
I don't know. It's just, I don't like his personality. It's not fun.
Softpaw, going dark. You know what? Every enemy in the building just heard you say going dark.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, he's very loud.
And speaking of loud, one of the most awful characters ever created for this franchise, Rufus. Rufus is just a character that I can't stand interacting with. His voice is kind of droll and boring. He's got hardly any personality. And his voice lines are unskippable for the most part. And he just kind of goes on, or at least it feels that way.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't think of anybody who actually likes interacting with him, especially after you've beaten Swap Force.
He's my least favorite NPC out of all the games, ever.
And considering what we just said about Persephone, that's hard to do.
Yeah, I know.
But Rufus manages it.
Rufus literally says the same line over and over again in the postgame. Welcome back to Woodboro, hero of Cloudbreak Islands. What can I do for you today? And it's just like, oh my god, stop talking.
And you can't skip it.
And then further, after that, he will say like a line about like, Avril has some time attack challenges for you to try, and it's like, I know that, skip.
Or go see Snagglescale for arena challenges. Skip! Skippity skip!
He's the most annoying character ever. It's like, if you're going to have this character be the person that welcomes you back for the post-game content when people pull up the game, you couldn't have given him like 6 different voice lines or something? Apparently not, because he just keeps saying the same, like, intro over and over again, and then he only has, like, 3 different options when it comes to something to say after that. It's the most frustrating thing ever.
Which is interesting because of all the additional side mode content that they had in that game. and he only points you to 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, it's very annoying. Like, and as you said, like, throughout the whole entire game, like, he basically has no other personality. Like, he has, like, I guess a little fun interaction in Mount Cloudbreak where, he meets Flynn for the first time, but that's kind of it.
We can attribute that to being Flynn, though.
True.
That's the only reason that's not an inherently negative interaction, is because it's with Flynn.
Flynn kind of sells that one, Well, Tessa really does, because she's the one that's, like, hyping up Flynn as, like, the best pilot. Like, Tessa's the one that really sells that scene for me. It's not Rufus.
It's definitely not Rufus.
Yeah, so Rufus is, he's awful. Like, if his character is just, like, suddenly erased from existence, I wouldn't mind.
I'd be thrilled.
Because then that would mean that I'd be able to open up Swap Force again without having to sit there for, like, a minute of him just, like, pointing things out. And it's like, great, thanks, Rufus.
Yeah.
It's just, oh my gosh. Like, awful. He is an awful character. He has no personality, and you can't skip him. Awful.
Right.
Alright, so who else do you have on your list?
Auric.
Interesting. I literally didn't even consider Auric. For me, I think he's like an okay character. Like, I can guess why you're gonna say that he's negative, but yeah, for me, it's just like, meh, like, I don't really mind.
For me, they took the character of Moneybags from Spyro, and they kind of split it, so Auric got his looks, and Persephone got part of his personality. Auric's kind of a boring character, loosely designed around what Moneybags used to look like.
Yeah.
So you could almost say that he was supposed to have been Moneybags, only he also lacks the personality of Moneybags.
Yeah, he's like a stripped down version of Moneybags. So I can agree with that. Like, but like, I definitely would have preferred just Moneybags instead of Auric, by far.
And then the whole, for a modest fee part of his personality went to Persephone.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what makes me dislike him, is the fact that he does seem to have been designed from a character that was very memorable, and now he's just not.
For me, another character that I don't really like is yet another Swap Force character, Shock. But it's Baron von Shellshock.
I'm neutral to Baron von Shellshock.
Okay, gotcha. So I don't know. I don't really like his personality. I think he's kind of annoying. I didn't really think they needed to... Oh, there we go. There's one other one that they brought back for Swap Force for Battle Brawl Island. But, like, yeah, I don't really like his character. Like, I just think he's kind of annoying, frankly. Kind of not Snaggle Scale level, but he's almost like a really bad version of Dr. Smith. And I'm not talking about modern Lost in Space. I'm talking about 1960s Lost in Space. But, like, he kind of has this, like, I guess, passive-aggressive kind of attitude, and he always kind of gets away, except for when he doesn't get away. But, like, he manages to escape all those times, and, like, I don't really kind of like what they were doing with his character, because while I do like Dr. Smith from Lost in Space, like, Dr. Smith is, like, comic relief. Meanwhile, with Baron von Shellshock, I just get bad. Like, I think they were trying to go for, like, he's funny, he's quirky, but I don't see it. It just kind of feels like he's annoying more so than anything to me.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Brock is another character on my list.
Ooh, interesting. I literally forgot about Brock.
And there's a good reason right there.
Yeah.
Brock is extremely forgettable. Like, I know he has personality, but I can't for the life of me remember it. He seems like just this crush bad guys kind of guy. I just really don't care for his character.
I don't think he's that bad. Like, I'd probably put him in the okay category.
He's not that bad, but the scale is still tipped towards I don't like.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
He's just one of the lesser ones. He's not like Rufus or Persephone bad, but he still makes the list.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I can get that. Like, some of his voice lines can be a little annoying, but overall, like, I'm not, like, opposed to him. Like, I'm not gonna, like, actively try to avoid, like, the arena matches to not have to interact with its character.
That's fair.
Meanwhile, it was a relief when Imaginators came around and I didn't have to interact with Persephone ever again. But yeah, but I can understand kind of where you're coming from. But for me, he's way more on the neutral side as opposed to the dislike side.
Nobody's gonna be Persephone bad except Rufus. I have literally gone through leveling characters in the Chaos Doom Challenge in Trap Team, and then switched games entirely over to Imaginators to buy upgrades. so I didn't have to interact with Persephone.
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to be that bad except Rufus.
Yeah, and also, it just, not only do you not have to interact with Persephone, but you're able to just in mass buy all the upgrades. You don't need to wait for, like, a loading symbol or a cutscene or
and
something.
A voice line.
Yeah, it's just like you can just go down the line and buy them. Another character I don't really like is Quigley from Spyro's Adventure and Giants. I just don't really find his character funny, frankly. Like,
Fair.
I just think he's kind of annoying.
I completely forgot about him.
Yeah, he's pretty forgettable. And technically in Spyro's Adventure, I don't think you need to interact with him at all. He's just kind of like running around the hub world. Meanwhile, you do like see him in Giants, I think, briefly with Quigley's grotto, but otherwise he's just kind of like annoying. It's like, why are you here? And another one that I kind of feel very similarly like that about is Hedwig from Monster Marsh. Oh man, I just don't like Monster Marsh.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. Monster Marsh was a terrible level.
Yeah, it has, not only does it have Marcia, which, like, what a mistake. Marcia. Like, oh my gosh.
But you also have Hedwig, and the entire level feels like an extension of Rainfish Riviera.
Which is, I think, the better level of the two.
And it just feels wholly unnecessary.
Yeah, it's like, they literally just, like, Rainfish Riviera and Monster Marsh are both, like, swampy, water-based levels, and, like, Monster Marsh just feels like a really awful continuation of Rainfish Riviera.
It really does.
And the fact that it's led by Marcia and Hedwig, oh my gosh. And Hedwig's one of those characters I'm very happy just didn't come back, because he's just like, oh no, almost monotone. Like,
yeah,
he's just not, he almost has no personality. Meanwhile, I think the last one that I have on here is Camouflage, Master Camouflage from Enchanted Elven Forest.
Fair. I'm neutral to her. She had her ups and her downs.
I think the characterization's fine, I guess. It's just, I really don't like how much trouble she caused. It's just like, and I get that's part of her personality, but like, I feel like they could have gone with the whole, like, wild and eccentric personality without making her cause damage to the level.
I'd like to give a couple, not necessarily hateful, but dislike shoutouts to Arbo.
Okay.
And to Snuckles.
Yeah. No, I actually agree with you on both of those. Arbo is very annoying.
And then Snuckles was essentially what you don't want to do with a Mabu.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like Snuckles, along with, like, the Mabu Defense Force, generally. It's just, no. Yeah, so I'd agree. Those are some good shoutouts there. They're just, both of them are very annoying characters, just because you don't want to interact with them. We might as well go ahead and talk about some neutral characters. I've already touched on all of mine already, like Buzz and everything, but Ditto does have a couple that she'd want to talk about. So Ditto, who are your kind of neutral characters?
I just have a couple of characters that deserve a shout out for being just kind of neither likable nor dislikable.
Okay.
First one is going to go to Avril.
Okay, yeah. I can see that.
Because she was kind of fun and quirky, but at the same time, she was kind of boring and flat.
Yeah, like, they didn't need to bring her back, and they pretty much didn't, except for that, like, one, like, thing in Imaginator. So, yeah, I can get that.
One to Pendergast, who I really, really wanted to like, but they didn't exactly give us enough Pendergast in order to like him.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit back in the vehicle episode, and yeah, I can agree with you. Like, the thing is I would have really liked this character if they'd only just fleshed him out a little bit more.
And then one last neutral shout out to Sharpfin.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot about him I liked, and then there was a lot about him I really just didn't enjoy.
Yeah, honestly, overall, Sharpfin to me is, yeah, also neutral.
His presence doesn't bother me, nor does it excite me. But I remember him. He's memorable enough that he doesn't just make the bad list.
Yeah.
He's just kind of true neutral.
Yeah. Now that we've talked about our opinions on a lot of the NPCs, let us know what your thoughts on the NPCs are in the comments, of course. But now I think it's time for us to go back and focus on the Skylanders of the franchise, specifically finding them for a legendary treasure hunt.
Now it's time for this week's legendary treasure hunt. This is the segment where we try to find the best lot of Skylanders possible within a challenge at the best bargain possible. This week's challenge was to find a lot with the most Pop Fizz figures with a maximum price of $35.
Yes.
And each lot will be judged by our traditional system of 1 point per Pop Fizz in the lot, 1/2 point for every $5 under that maximum limit we are, and minus 1/2 point for every Shroom Boom in the lot. I do, as the host of this week, have one super special bonus point that I can hand out for pretty much any reason I see fit. Let us begin. Inklander, what lot have you found this week? Where was it from? How much did it cost? What do you got for us?
All right, yeah. So my lot I found on eBay, priced at $20, and it consists of Love Potion Pop Fizz, the original Pop Fizz from Giants, Super Gulp Pop Fizz, and Big Bubble Pop Fizz from Superchargers. So it is a lot of just those 4 Pop Fizzes from across a couple different games there. So 4 Pop Fizzes, $20.
Not bad, not bad. That's a pretty good spread of Pop Fizzes, too.
Yeah, decent variety across all the games.
Now, your lot scores out at 4 points for the 4 Pop Fizzes. You are $15 under the price limit of $35 at $20, awarding you an additional 1.5 for a total of 5.5 points.
Awesome. Now, Ditto, what about your lot? What did you find this week?
As for my lot, I found one somewhat similar to yours. I have a lot built up of 4 Pop Fizzes, the Series 1 Pop Fizz from Giants, the Punch Pop Fizz from Giants, the Series 2 Super Gulp Pop Fizz, and the Birthday Bash Big Bubble Pop Fizz from Superchargers. I found this lot on eBay for a total price of $9.99.
Very nice. So yeah, basically, while the figures are different, it's pretty much the exact same as my lot, except $10 cheaper.
Yes. So my lot scores out at 4 points for 4 Pop Fizzes, plus I am $25 under the limit, granting me an additional 2.5 points, for a total of 6.5 points. Which means that I am the winner of this week's Legendary Treasure Hunt.
Nice. Good game, Ditto.
Good game, Inklander. I'm actually impressed. We practically found the same lot, just with such a significant price gap.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, here I was thinking that mine was a really good deal. Like, coming into this, I really thought I was going to be able to beat you this week with this deal, but no, you just came in with pretty much the exact same thing, but half priced. So, yeah, really impressive.
And this just goes to show even further that if you're searching for a deal on Skylanders, you can find it. What was that explosion? Did Pop Fizz just destroy my Buzzwing? Alright, let's call Flynn, we'll board the Dread Yacht, and head off to our next destination, I guess.
Well, it was really nice of Flynn to pick us up since Ditto's Buzzwing had been destroyed, although, it kind of is bad because Flynn's ship is also now in need of repair because he happened to crash it through a volcano. So not only does the Buzzwing need to be fixed, but also so does the Dread Yacht. We have crash landed into the level Mount Cloudbreak from Skylanders Swap Force. So, Ditto, what are your overall thoughts and impressions of this introductory level of Skylanders Swap Force?
My initial thoughts are this was a pretty good opening stage for Skylanders Swap Force. Definitely not the best opening stage in a Skylanders game. Probably actually one of the least memorable.
Yeah.
But it was still rather fun. The bits where Flynn is in the process of crash landing the Dread Yacht are kind of tedious.
Yeah.
Especially since you're just clearing stuff off the ship and getting rid of a couple of greebles. But once you actually get to the on-foot, non-vehicular side of the level, which is the majority of it, it goes rather quickly. It's a really, really short level. There's not a whole lot in the way of guiding you or even telling you what the controls do, to be honest. It's just a little bit of puzzling, some turning of a wheel, essentially, a little bit of block pushing, break down a couple gates. I think there might be a battle gate or two, and then you're done. It's a fun level, but not a great one.
Yeah. Although you say, and then you're done, as though this level's short. It's quite long.
Yeah, this level, it flies by quickly for me because I speedrun it, but this level is long.
Yeah, like it's pretty long. Like on an initial playthrough, this is gonna, especially if you're trying to access all the elemental gates, of which there's multiple of in this level. Same thing, with the different swap zones and everything. Like it takes a while to get through a swap force level generally. So this level itself is like one of those, it's typically a little too long levels.
If you're not speedrunning, this is a 45-minute level.
Yeah, so that's just swap force generally, though. That's swap force's issue. When it comes to the intro area, I definitely agree with you. Like, I think Flynn crashing the dread yacht it makes for a really great opening part, but the thing is because it's the beginning of the game and you're given a lot of weaker enemies, it's not necessarily as exciting as it could be. If that was something that happened like in the penultimate level of the game, that would be cool, because then you might actually have some gear golems and stuff that you're going up against and have a little bit more of an exciting fight going on. But since this happens right at the beginning, which, yeah, they need to crash Flynn to be able to get him to hang out with Tessa and the squawking feather mattress. So they needed that to happen, but it probably would have been better if they'd done that a little bit later, because then they could have had that actual battle stuff be a little bit more exciting.
Or I would argue that since it did have to happen, maybe just make it part of the cutscene and not part of the action for the level.
Yeah, that's true. And I get that they wanted to introduce fighting, but honestly, they could have just done that right at the beginning. Like the Chompy pod, where that's shooting out Chompies, that was easy enough.
That would have been a perfect start for the tutorial for combat.
Yeah, like they wouldn't have needed anything else other than that, so I agree. But then meanwhile, this level I actually kind of like a lot. Like it, as you've said, it's not the best opening level. I think that definitely goes to Superchargers.
Oh yes, easily. I would argue that it's the worst opening level.
Really interesting.
I would say it's the least memorable.
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty close to Cradle of Creation for me.
I would say it's just slightly below that. Cradle of Creation isn't much better, but it's not the worst. I would say this one's just slightly worse.
Like, they feel very similar, like, because they all have the ruins kind of life element feel to them.
That's fair.
Cradle of Creation does have that whole interior section, as we've talked about in a previous episode, that does kind of make it stand out.
And Cradle of Creation taught you the controls.
Yeah, meanwhile, this one, it doesn't really, which is also interesting because here in this level, like, as someone that experienced these games from Giants forward, this was the first time that I ever experienced jumping in the Skylanders game. And that was kind of interesting because that wasn't there before. And so seeing how they chose to integrate jumping, I feel like this was a pretty good introduction to that as well, because there's not too many places where you need to jump in this level, and a lot of the places where you do, I think, are pretty straightforward. Like, they don't have any tricky jumps like they have in the later levels. So I think they did a pretty good job with that, even though they don't really tell you how to jump. They aren't like, here's the jump button, especially because they screwed up the controls. Like, they're very different from the button layout in Giants, because in Giants, the B button or the X button, if you're, depending on or the A button, depending on whatever console you're playing on, is like an attack. But meanwhile, in Swap Force and Forward, it's a jump button. And so that was like pretty jarring, because then all your controls have been rearranged to be in different places. And so that was kind of a little weird that they did that, as opposed to just making like the top button the X or the triangle or something like that, again, depending on the console. It was weird that they didn't make that the jump button, because that was already the action button anyway in Giants. So the fact that they didn't just like make that the action and jump button, that was a little weird. But whatever. They still did a good job with this level introducing that. And even though it wasn't like necessarily instructed about jumping, really, like, at least they have a good level design to where it introduces you to jumping slowly. Meanwhile, it's basically your typical intro level.
You have Chompies, you got Chompy Pods, you got Greebles, you push a few blocks.
Yep.
You have a Battle Gate or two.
Yeah, you got a couple hidden areas, and then that's pretty much it. They introduce you to the element gates, and overall it's fun, honestly. Like, it actually feels like a good level, and with the jumping also included, like, it feels kind of like you're climbing up the mountain to Woodboro, so they do actually do a lot with the theming and the aesthetics. And I also do have to give a shout out to this level for introducing grind rails in a way that's actually not clunky, unlike Imaginators. So, this level actually is pretty good. Like, I don't really have any complaints about it. I think it looks great. It also showcases the new graphics engine that they made. So, like, this level was not only technically an introduction to the game, but for fans of the series from Spyro's Adventure and Giants, it was the introduction to the new graphics engine, and it was also the introduction to jumping. And so I think they did a really good job with that. The water in this level looks really good. Like, all the grass effects and particle effects in this level looks good. The honey and the beehive areas, those are really nice areas as well. They help you with the platforming. They help you introduce the platforming, and they also are just, like, really vibrant and really cool. And it's just overall, like, a really nice level. Like, it's just your typical solid Skylanders level. There's not anything bad about it except that cutscene with Rufus.
Yeah, it's just kind of there. It was fun.
Yeah. Oh, the music.
And that's what matters.
I do have to say the music in this level is spectacular, but that's the only thing that I think is above and beyond about it. The music is great. It's one of the, like, really, really nice soundtracks from the Swap Force soundtrack. I mean, Swap Force generally has some pretty good music, but I really appreciate the Braving Mount Cloudbreak track. Well, we finally made it to Woodboro, and we're trying to find someone that's going to be taking us to the Archean Arena since the Dread is no longer working at the moment. So it looks like we're going to just have to hop on the back of Whiskers and fly off to the Archean Arena with Tessa.
It's been a bit of a struggle making it all the way over here. Whiskers seems pretty exhausted and set down a little harder than I would assume is comfortable. It was kind of a cramped ride, all three of us on Whiskers, but we have made it here to the Archean Arena, where we pit Skylander against Skylander in bouts of theoretical combat. This week, we are returning to a 1 versus 1 style of combat. Myself versus Inklander. Inklander, who have you chosen to champion for you this week?
All right, so the Skylander that I've brought to the Archean Arena this week is Ninjini. Ninjini is a magic Skylander with a mixed type of battle style, with a health of 1,230, a critical hit of 60, armor of 35, speed of 55, and luck of 30. Her primary attack is Wishblades, which deals 54 damage, and deals 146 damage when charged. And Wishblades, of course, is her swinging her blades. Attack 2 is Bottle Blast, where she will be able to hide inside her bottle and then blast out again in a magical explosion, and that deals 94 damage. Meanwhile, her third attack is Surrealistic Spheres, which has her summon orbs to cast towards enemies, and that deals 42 damage. The answer to life, the universe, and everything. Her top path is Swords of Might, where attack 1 gains combos and charge, and the swords gain increased damage. Meanwhile, her bottom path is Ancient Djinn Magic. Ancient Djinn Magic has the bottle gain durability and speed, attack 3 gains increased damage, and the rockets gain increased speed and damage. So I think Ninjini is a pretty powerful character. I know that she's one of your favorites, Ditto. And honestly, she's a lot of fun to play as. I think all of her attacks are really good. They combo really well. And just generally, because she's a giant, she has a lot of good stats. She has a pretty high critical hit, some really good health, and her character design is just really fun. And also, voiced by the same voice actress as Persephone, the character's not annoying.
You're absolutely right, and it's a shame that I'm going to have to fight one of my own favorite characters in today's arena. But you would know exactly what that feels like, because I do believe I used a few of yours in the early stages of Season 1.
That's true. That is true.
So, the Skylander I have chosen to champion for me today is none other than Dark Kingpin.
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
Bet you didn't see that coming.
No, I did not.
Dark Kingpin is a melee water element Skylander with a maximum health at level 20 of 900, critical hit 107, armor 30, speed 58, and luck 31. His attack 1 is Penguin Combo, which is a slashing combo that hits 4 times for 62 points of damage per hit. His attack 2 is Frost Breath, which creates an icy path in front of Kingpin. Enemies that walk over this path are damaged and frozen, 21 points of damage every step on the ice. And his attack 3 is Penguin Drill, which allows him to dash towards enemies. It's a dashing attack that deals 23 points of damage with every hit. For upgrade paths, his top path is called Penguin Combos. It adds combos to his attack 1, improves attack 1's damage. It adds combos and a charge to attack 1, as well as improving attack 1's damage. His bottom path is known as Ice Mastery, and it allows for attack 3 to create ice paths as he dashes, and charging attack 2 slows enemies and causes burst damage. So Kingpin is a really, really fun, sort of quick attacking melee character. He's definitely one of my favorite senseis to play as. Not my favorite, but very much up there. I would tend to go to Kingpin as my go-to water element. He's a lot of fun to deal with. He's able to take that attack too, and it kind of already has a charge to begin with, the Ice Arena upgrades, where he can kind of trap enemies in that ice. And it's just really, really cool seeing how he has dash attacks, he has quick slashing attacks, and he has sort of sabotage attacks where he just like traps the enemy so that he can deal even more damage to them. He's just a really fun character.
Yeah, that is true.
And I'm excited to see how he holds up against Ninjini. So how I would, honestly, Kingpin's a very, very straightforward character. The way I would probably try to play this is to keep Ninjini close. I'm going to use those dash attacks to get off some damage, keep her close, and basically try and slash her up with the Penguin Combo attacks, because that's 62 points of damage. If the full combo hits, that's 4 hits at that number, and that's fairly good damage. I feel like I could bring down that 1,230 HP gauge you got there actually pretty quickly if it were just a flat-out slash fest. But the idea would be to prevent you from getting any kind of far away, because, rockets versus melee isn't ideal. I would definitely also try and, get that ice arena up and going, so that it's just another way to keep Ninjini close and kind of just go at it. There's not a whole lot of trickery in Kingpin's arsenal. There's not a whole lot of skill variation in how he's used. It's just a question of how much to Ice Arena versus how much to Penguin Drill.
Yeah, and that makes sense. You'd definitely be able to chip away at my health pretty quickly there. But my strategy would be to use kind of Bottle Blast to just kind of spam that, honestly, to be able to create that explosion, because that would deal 94 damage each time. And considering Kingpin does have a significantly lower health than Ninjini does, being able to deal almost 100 damage pretty much in one hit should be pretty detrimental to Kingpin. So I'd probably also want to keep Kingpin kind of close and keep dealing that Bottle Blast damage to be able to get him caught in that explosion. And then once Kingpin's health is a lot lower, I'd probably go with the top path for Ninjini to be able to have the charge for the Wishblades and just keep slashing with the Wishblades once Kingpin's down to 100, 200 health, and just slash that a couple times, or heck, just do that charge attack one or two times to be able to take out Kingpin.
I would probably also go with the top path to increase my blade damage, because if I'm going to be in close quarters, that's definitely the way to go. Now, I would like to point out that that bottle blast does take a little bit of time to go off, because first she shrinks into the bottle, and then you press it again to explode out.
That is true.
So my combos would definitely still be landing, and I feel like, honestly, if it's down to bottle blast versus slashing, we're probably going to run out of health at about the same time.
Yeah, it's possible. I would say that that's kind of likely, because Bottle Blast is going to be dealing a lot of damage there, but it's also going to be something where Ninjini might be able to get caught into your attacks, and also your attacks are going to be able to combo to be able to get up close to 94 damage, if not maybe a little bit higher than that. So it is possible that you might be able to dwindle Ninjini's health down quite a bit there, while I'm being able to deal about 100 points of damage to you each time. So it's actually possible that this would kind of be a pretty close match, honestly. I think this could actually be, based on both of the ways that we would want to play this could be a draw that we're looking at here.
Yeah, because especially since the bottle doesn't protect her from damage. One of Kingpin's combos, if hit with the full combo, is 248.
Oh yeah, so you'd be able to get Ninjini's health down really quick.
So knowing that the bottle doesn't actually protect Ninjini from receiving any damage, and Kingpin's combo hits 4 times, if you hit all 4 times, that's 248 points of damage. So both health gauges are going to be dropping at alarming rates between the 248 to Ninjini. At about the same amount of time it would take Ninjini to fire off, I would say, 2 of those bottle blasts. In a direct slug out like this, just relying on the one attack to one attack, this would probably come down to a draw.
Yeah.
I would say it's split down the middle.
Yeah, I'd say it's 50-50 here.
So this week's Archean Arena ends in a draw between Ninjini and Dark Kingpin. Let us know if you think it should have ended differently.
That brings us to the end of today's episode. You'll find our website and our individual channels listed in the description. Follow our Twitter at SLPortalcasters for regular updates about the podcast, and join our Discord server for Skylanders discussions. Thanks for listening, and in the next episode, we'll be discussing the best Flynn moments. See you then. Bye. I would agree. And as you say, that villain backstory, which we talked about kind of in depth in the Easter episode.
By the way, I think that was the Valentine's episode.
Was it? Back in the Valentine's episode. There we go. Just whatever one it is. I haven't edited the Easter episode yet, so I thought it was an Easter, but maybe not.